Good evening, I'm Prasad Michael and you're watching Kini News. Umno Deputy President Mohamad Hasan has responded to the Perikatan Nasional government's move to use the National Trust Fund for the procurement of vaccines and any related expenditure.
Umno Deputy President Mohamad Hasan has proposed that the government charge those who can afford to pay for the COVID-19 vaccine. He said this in response to the government's move to utilize the National Trust Fund for the procurement of vaccines and related expenditure. He said free COVID-19 vaccines could be offered to those who cannot afford it, and for those who can, they could pay according to the market price. In a post on Facebook today, Mohamad acknowledged that maybe this wasn't the best option, but he said it would be better than gambling away the future of the next generations. He questioned if the Perikatan Nasional government would risk the well-being and survival of future generations without exploring any other options. Mohamad also questioned why the government suddenly needed to utilize the trust fund. He pointed out that in Budget 2021, 3 billion ringgit had been set aside to vaccinate 83% of the population, and a month ago, the allocation for the National COVID-19 Immunization Program was increased to 5 billion ringgit in order to expedite the vaccination target to 80% by December. He said, as the matter is one of national importance, it should be discussed and considered by all parties with the highest level of transparency. Mohamad also echoed concerns by critics who opposed the use of the trust fund and said that it showed the vulnerability of the government in handling the COVID-19 pandemic. On Wednesday, it was reported that Putrajaya used its emergency power to pass a law to utilize the National Trust Fund for the procurement of vaccines and any related expenditure. The trust fund was established in 1988 as the country's natural resource fund, and it is managed by Bank Negara. According to the National Trust Fund Report 2018, tabled in Parliament in 2020, the fund has a total value of 17.4 billion ringgit.
DAP Secretary General Lim Guan Eng has taken a swipe at the Perikatan Nasional government after Malaysia dropped 18 places on the Reporters Without Borders annual press index.
DAP Secretary General Lim Guan Eng said that Malaysia's Press Freedom Index rankings will continue to decline so long as Perikatan Nasional is in charge. In a statement today, he said the PN government continues to be in denial about the reason why Malaysia dropped 18 places on the Reporters Without Borders or RSF Annual Press Freedom Index. He said that Communications and Multimedia Minister Saifuddin Abdullah had missed the point of the report when he promised that the press will be free to report within the confines of the law, and that action to stop the spread of false news did not mean restricting press freedom. According to Guan Eng, no one objects to action against those disseminating fake news on COVID-19. However, Saifuddin ignored RSF's concern of more authoritarian rule in 2020, which had led to the prosecution of journalists, police searches, the expulsion of journalists, and a whistleblower, as well as the violation of journalist confidentiality. He pointed out how RSF had acknowledged Harapan's commitment to press freedom and said that things have gone in reverse since Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin took over. Guan Eng also claimed that Saifuddin was a changed man, from advocating press freedom when he was a Harapan minister to curbing press freedom now. He added that the public can only get to the bottom of all the fake news if Parliament was reopened and MPs can pursue their role of demanding answers and accountability. Malaysia is ranked 119 in the Reporters Without Borders Annual Press Freedom Index, which came out on Tuesday. The Republic of Congo is placed at 118, and Nigeria is at 120.
The Health Ministry has predicted that Malaysia's COVID-19 situation will continue to worsen. But before we get to that, if you like our content and would like to be a contributor, click in the link in the description.
COVID-19 cases in Malaysia could increase to over 3,000 cases a day by Hari Raya Aidilfitri on May 13th if the standard operating procedures are not followed. In an updated forecast, the Health Ministry predicted that the cases could even reach nearly 5,000 per day by the end of May. The forecast was based on the trajectory of the non-compliance to SOP scenario. This assumes that the disease has an effective reproduction number, or RT, of 1.2. The Health Ministry said the RT as of yesterday was at 1.16. Following the forecast, cases should shrink to around 500 cases per day by Hari Raya if SOPs are followed, According to the chart, it could decrease further until around 300 cases a day by the end of May. This was following the compliance to SOP scenario. Malaysia has recorded an average of 2,387 confirmed COVID-19 cases over the 7 days up to yesterday, as the country reversed its course on the previous progress against the third wave of the outbreak. 2,875 cases were recorded yesterday, which is the highest number recorded since February 24th. Previously, the government had enacted a state of emergency on January 11th and enforced the second movement control order on some states and territories 2 days later as a COVID-19 prevention measure.
No casualties or injuries were reported in the fire which broke out at a condominium yesterday. However, 2 units of the condo were destroyed in the incident.
A fire broke out on the 12th floor of a condominium at Bukit OUG yesterday night. 2 units of the condominium were destroyed. Senior Fire and Rescue Operations Commander Mohamad Hasan told Bernama that they had received an emergency call at 9:14 p.m. and immediately dispatched fire engines and 45 personnel from the Jalan Hang Tuah, Sri Petaling and Seputeh fire stations. He said when the firemen arrived at the scene, about 60% to 90% of the 2 units had been destroyed. According to Mohamad Hafiz, the fire was brought under control at around 10 p.m. and was completely extinguished at 10:30 p.m. He said no casualties or injuries were reported in the incident. The cause of the fire is still being investigated.
Shellfish, red meat, and beer. If you love indulging in these foods, you may end up with high uric acid level in your blood. These foods consist high level of purine, a substance that will eventually break down into uric acid and be excreted through our urine. It is recommended that the amount of dietary purines should be kept between 600 to 1,000 milligrams per day. Having too much uric acid in your blood can cause attacks of gout. It can also cause kidney stones and blockage in the kidney. The crystallization of the excessive uric acid in your blood can be eased by reducing purine-rich food to only 100 to 150 milligrams daily, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and consuming urinary alkalinizer like Ural. It consists of sodium bicarbonate, citric acid, and sodium citrate that increases the urinary pH and solubility of uric acid to prevent crystallization. Best of all, it's lemon-flavored and sugar-free. Ural, effective urinary alkalinizer. Neutralize your uric acid problem now.
COVID-19 cases in the country were reduced quickly due to the emergency. This is according to Home Minister Hamzah Zainuddin.
Home Minister Hamzah Zainuddin has reiterated that there was no hidden agenda by the government in declaring the emergency. At a press conference yesterday, he said the declaration of emergency allowed the government to handle the COVID-19 situation in the country. According to Bernama, he said this included through the amendments of several specific acts to curb the spread of the disease, such as the amendment of the Workers' Minimum Standards of Housing and Amenities Amendment Act 2019, Act 446, to ensure better living conditions for foreign workers. Hamzah added that this might not have been possible without the emergency, and the government would not be able to reduce the COVID-19 cases as fast as possible. He said this in response to a question on the opposition's committee to end the emergency, sending a second letter to the Istana Negara on Tuesday to request an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, Sultan Abdullah Sultan Ahmad Shah, to present a memorandum appealing for an end to the emergency.
And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to kinitv.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. But before you go, if you'd like to support independent media, subscribe to malaysiakini.com. I'm Prasad Michael. Thank you for watching.